But we cannot forget that. And I think something that is something that I think we need to understand too. We talked about the issues that were the global issues for 2009. And we talked about the issues that were for the United States. But sometimes I think we need to scale down. What are the issues for Monticello, Indiana? What are the issues for White County? What are the issues that we don't see, that we are blind to? I wish it was easy. I wish some of this stuff wasn't that hard. I wish sometimes that God didn't say go and radically transform the world, because that's big stuff. That's stuff that we should hear, and we should tremble, and then we should go do. But we should probably tremble. But that's a big thing that we're called to do. And what's so hard sometimes is to go and find those small and those insignificant. This church is awesome. We have people come forward and say, we're going to do this, and we support them and we do it. But there are things out there that none of us know about, or that we're starting to find out. And we need to come forward and say, this is an injustice that's occurring here in Monticello, and it needs to come to an end. Would you help me bring justice to this situation? And those situations are there. And those situations are the situations where, with God's help, we will be able to bring justice to Monticello, justice to White County, justice to the United States, justice to the world through the name of Jesus Christ. And those are huge things. Those are huge things, but we need to be aware of the small and the insignificant. 6 and 7, verses 6 and 7 are, I think, this is a pretty impacting two verses right here. And we'll talk about it. I guess that's why I have it up there. I have set you among my people to bind them to me and provide you as a lighthouse to the nations, to make a start at bringing people into the open, into light, opening blind eyes, releasing prisoners from dungeons, emptying the dark prisons. I just like the fact that dungeons is in there. Dungeons are a pretty dark thing, actually. And some of you may be thinking, how can you say dungeons without dragons? I don't know. I never did that. But anyway, but dungeons are I think it's a pretty good imagery there of the darkness that can happen. The darkness that takes place in this world. The darkness that that those injustices just cover. And I was doing some research on dungeons, which is always, that was weird. And I was trying to find a picture for Dungeon 2, and I don't know if this doesn't do justice, but all the other pictures of dungeons really, really scared me, and I didn't want to scare any of you. Didn't want to go that far, but dungeons are we think of medieval times. We think of all these movies that, maybe you think of Robin Hood's, or you think of Three Musketeers or Iron Mask, and you think of all these dark places and just horrible places, people chained up to the sides of walls, and it's just really bad. But dungeons, they were underground, which meant that no light was able to come in, no windows or anything. So it was just always dark. It didn't matter what time of day, just always dark. And because these dungeons were underground and under these castles or under these big structures, pretty much all the human waste just funneled down into these areas. And so it was just a horrible place. And it was crazy because it was someone who did something bad, but not bad enough just to get killed. And so they were down there just waiting to die. And these places were also just places where torture was taking place. Just terrible, just horrible. A place that you don't want to visit. Like, I look at that picture, I'm like, that looks like Colonial Williamsburg. I don't know, I wouldn't mind visiting there. I don't know. But this is a horrible place. Locked away. No light coming in. No hope. Just filth. Just all wrapped up in just a horrible place. And the thing is that there are these horrible places all over the world today. And sometimes they're not tucked away underground, but they're out in the open and we can't even see them. These dungeons, this darkness, this filth. This is why Christ came. This is why God then instilled us with the power to go and be His hands and feet. to bring these dungeons, to bring into these dungeons light, to make sure that these injustices end, to make sure that the stat that 25,000 kids die a day stops. That is not fair. That is not justice. The challenge today that I give you, though, is that for you to go find an injustice, for you to have those eyes that are open, making sure that things that are not right in the eyes of God end. That's what God is calling us to be. That is what God is calling you to be. A person that is bold, a person that is passionate, a person that wants to truly live in the way that God intended you to live. And because of that, you will not brush aside and you will not turn a blind eye to the injustices of this world. How cool would it be if just month after month, different individuals come forward and say, I found this out, that it was going on, and it needs to stop. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. Dungeons are horrible places, and unfortunately dungeons are all around us. There are too many dark corners, too many helpless people, too much hopelessness. And it's through Christ. It's through Christ that we have been given the ability to end these injustices and bring justice forth. Like I said, this may shake up some of your priorities for this coming year. But we see in Matthew the hope here. It says, you are the light of the world. You are the light of the world. You can bring light into dungeons. You can remove the filth of dungeons, for you have been empowered by God to be the light of the world. You have the ability to transform everything around you. Now this past week, like I said, it was a great week. I mean, awesome news about Ben. Awesome news, that the Cardinals signed Matt Holliday. Just really great stuff. That's not even close to what happened this week. But anyway, Ben, there we go. But just a really good week. And I was able to take a group of guys skiing, college kids, up to Michigan, and we skied for a little bit. And it's funny when you go on a ski trip, and I didn't think I was at age where people had to give me warnings. But it's funny, they're like, well, you do know that you are 10 years older than the kids that you're going with. And it's funny how that's my sign of that this year is the year I turn 30, but we don't need to worry about that. And so, but it's funny how that's happening. And so, but it was interesting though, because my dad, I was talking to him on the phone, like, well, I'm going to be gone tomorrow. I'm going to take some kids skiing. And he's like, Alex, you don't want to get hurt. Be smart. You don't need to do everything that they do. You don't need to go all the ramp. You don't need, it's hard to help Chris out if you have a broken leg. All those things, But then at the other spectrum, I have the college guys who are saying, when we're up on top of the hill saying, no, you'll be fine. Go down, And I was smart in some instances and not smart in others. But anyway, I'm walking. So anyway, I don't have any broken bones. But what was interesting in that capacity, I learned that one, I was getting advice from my dad, which I do a lot. But I was getting advice from my dad, who's older than me. I think that's how it works. But I was also getting encouragement from those who are younger than me, and saying, you can do this. You're just fine. And they would go fast, and I wouldn't. But, we had that going on. But in a lot of instances, I think, especially in this instance, we can start saying, you know what? I'm too old. You know what? I'm too busy. I have a young family. I just don't have time. I'm too young. I don't know enough. But what I learned just, in the warnings for skiing, apparently, or the lack of warnings, was that it doesn't matter how old we are. I got knowledge from my dad, who's old, and then I got knowledge from he's not that old. And then I got knowledge from some 20-year-olds. And it all worked out. We can't say, and we can't cop out and say, I'm not worthy. I don't have anything to offer.